Ever since Donald Trump became president, people have been talking about impeachment. In fact, before Trump even took office, some people were looking for ways to get rid of him. Despite all this talk, it seems like a lot of people don't truly understand what impeachment is, how it works, or when it should be used. In this video, we're going to dive into those things and truly explain what impeachment is. Before we get to that though, make sure to subscribe to our new channel. We're really excited to be covering US news, and we hope that subscribing and hitting the bell icon means that we can bring you some great content. Also, if you want to support our channel, we have some merch up on our exclusive US merch store, including a US take on our countries with shoes design, states with shoes. Check them out and some other designs over in the store. There's a link in the description. So let's start with what impeachment actually is. It might sound simple, but as I said at the beginning, a lot of people don't understand this topic. And that's not just me being patronising or trying to convince you to watch this whole video. Speaker of the House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi, said exactly the same thing recently.
Do you know most people think that impeachment means you're out of office? Did you ever get that feeling, or are you just in the bubble here? They think that you get impeached, you're gone. And that is completely not true. And I may have thought that myself 50 years ago. But you get impeached, and it's an indictment. It's an indictment. So when you're impeaching somebody, you want to make sure you have the strongest possible indictment, because it's not the means to the end that people think.
As Pelosi just said, unlike what some people think, impeachment doesn't immediately or always get rid of presidents from office. In fact, scratch that, it's never got rid of a president from office. While two presidents have been impeached, Bill Clinton and Andrew Johnson, neither of them were kicked out of office because of impeachment. The House of Representatives tried to impeach Nixon, but he ended up leaving office on his own before the process could actually finish happening. So in the entire history of the US, no president has ever been impeached and then kicked out of office because of it. So in that case, what's the purpose of impeachment? Well, I'm glad you asked. Or more accurately, I'm glad you clicked on this video. The process of impeachment normally starts in the House of Representatives, where a committee conducts an inquiry to investigate the president's conduct. Then it goes to the entirety of the House of Representatives to decide if the committee's inquiry found impeachable offences. The House then votes on the matter, and if the majority find that the committee have found such offences, then they vote to impeach the president. However, counter to what many people seem to think, just because the president has now been impeached, that's not the end of the process. If the president gets this far, they don't need to start packing their bags just yet. That's because the House voting to impeach the president just moves the issue onto the Senate. Once the matter reaches the Senate, a trial is held to determine whether or not the president should be removed from office. To have the president removed, 2/3 of the Senate, also known as a supermajority, needs to vote to get rid of the president, which, let's be honest, is a pretty high bar. To quickly review, the first step is an investigation, then a vote of impeachment in the House, which needs a majority to impeach. If the president is impeached by the House, then the Senate holds a trial, and if 2/3 of them find the president guilty, then at that point, he's out of office. So not quite as simple as just impeaching him then. But let's say that you do want to impeach the president. What are the justifications for doing so? Well, according to the US Constitution, a president can be impeached on the grounds of treason, bribery, or high crimes and misdemeanors. When looking at the current president, it's that third option which some people are eyeing up: high crimes and misdemeanors. It's a really broad term, which could include a huge variety of misconduct. There's a lot of people who believe this was a deliberate decision made by the founding fathers of the US, leaving it a little up in the air, allowing the Senate of the day to interpret it the way they wished. So what high crimes and misdemeanors do some people think that Trump's committed? Well, the list is longer than you might think. Congress is currently looking at a number of potential crimes, varying from obstruction of justice to campaign finance violations to if Trump has used the office to enrich himself. There's a lot of debate about whether Trump is actually guilty of these charges, and then if they're actually grounds for impeachment. But this is definitely not great for Trump. The obstruction of justice charge is particularly damaging. There's quite a lot of people who seem to think that Mueller's report exonerated Trump. Remember Trump's victorious analysis of the report? No collusion, no obstruction. However, this isn't entirely true. Mueller's report spends quite a lot of time focusing on obstruction of justice, and finds 10 examples of Trump potentially obstructing justice. Obstruction of justice should be especially troubling for Trump, as it made up part of the articles of impeachment against Clinton and Nixon, showing that it's definitely a serious issue, and has been used before in attempts to bring down a president. If you're wondering what these potentially impeachable obstruction of justice charges are, then let's quickly run through them. When Trump asked FBI Director James Comey to let Michael Flynn go after Flynn lied to the Vice President about contact with Russia. Trump's reaction to the Russia investigation, including contacting officials when instructed not to, and asking Comey to lift the cloud of the Russia investigation. Trump firing FBI Director James Comey and then telling multiple contradictory stories about why he was removed from his position. Trump's ongoing attempts to remove Special Prosecutor Robert Mueller. Trump's attempts to curtail the Russia investigation, including requesting the removal of the special counsel. Trump's attempts to prevent evidence being shared with the public, with Trump telling aides not to share emails on several occasions. Trump's attempts to get Jeff Sessions brought back to the helm of the investigation. Trump's instructing Don McGahn to deny the president had ordered him to remove the special counsel, before McGahn then went on to tell officials that the media reports were accurate in stating that the president had directed him to remove the special counsel. Trump's team asking Flynn to give them a heads up if they knew any information that implicates the president, despite the fact that knowing this was no longer possible, as well as comments about Paul Manafort not flipping. And finally, the president's changing attitude to Michael Cohen, with Cohen going from a Trump Organization executive to being told to stay on message and stay strong, to being called a rat for cooperating with the government. Now, we're not saying categorically that these are things that Trump could be charged with, or that they should result in impeachment, but this is a long list of potential charges that Mueller highlighted. So if there's so much evidence of potentially impeachable offences, why hasn't a serious inquiry begun? Even if you think Trump is innocent of all the crimes we've listed, why not at least look into them, see if the claims hold any water, and if not, let this whole issue fade away? Well, the Democrats are actually surprisingly reticent to get started with proceedings. Pelosi, who we saw at the beginning of the video, says that Americans don't want Trump being impeached. And she's right. Polls do show that the majority of Americans do oppose impeachment. Therefore, Democrats are scared that this will work out similar to the Clinton impeachment, where the public weren't behind the move, and his Democratic Party actually saw their midterm performance increase in the light of the impeachment. Essentially, Democrats are worried that if they strike at the wrong time, if they try when the public aren't on board, they risk increasing Trump's support and shooting themselves in the foot. It's also possible that impeachment might pick up momentum once it's begun, as happened with Nixon, where the public weren't on board initially, but ended up supporting the move. The real question for Democrats is if impeaching Trump will pay off, considering all the hurdles they have to jump over to get him kicked out of office. And honestly, it doesn't look likely that will happen. Remember, 2/3 of the Senate need to approve it, which means assuming all 45 Democrats and 2 independent senators vote to impeach, 20 Republicans would still have to vote against Trump to make it happen, which doesn't look likely. So if the process won't realistically end with Trump leaving the White House, is the risk of it backfiring worth it? Does it make sense to try and impeach Trump when it could end up bolstering his vote in the 2020 election? That's a question we can't answer. No one knows for sure how impeachment would end up going, and if it would work for or against Trump. Some people argue that regardless of election tactics, the Democrats should impeach Trump to set a precedent. Trump has done a lot of things that presidents don't normally do, many of which some consider illegal or unconstitutional. Therefore, by not attempting impeachment, they worry that it sets a troubling precedent for what presidents are able to do in the future. We're interested in what you think, though. Let us know in the comments below. Do you think that the Democrats should initiate impeachment proceedings? Do you think that Trump would eventually be kicked out of office if they did? Let us know what you think in the comments. If you do want more US content like this, remember that we have the TLDR US channel that we mentioned earlier. Over the next few weeks, we're going to continue posting content there, all about Trump, the US politics, and the never-ending race to find a Democratic candidate. If that's something you'd be interested in, subscribe to the US channel and also hit the bell icon to be notified as soon as we post videos there. You can also find us by searching for TLDR News or TLDR News US. Finally, if you want your name listed at the end of the video like these people, make sure to support us on Patreon. There's a link to that in the description.